Picture this. You're driving alone down a desolate, fog-shrouded stretch of rural highway in the dead of night. The temperature has just completely dropped, your radio is picking up nothing but static, and the absolute only illumination for miles is the harsh, narrow beam of your headlights piercing through the pitch-black darkness. Then, suddenly, a massive, shadowy figure steps right out from the swaying cornfields. It completely defies logic and biology, but it is standing on two legs. It slowly turns toward your vehicle, and its glowing, unnatural eyes lock directly onto yours in the dark. Welcome to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to guide you through one of America's most terrifying and honestly most enduring local mysteries. Today, we're heading deep into the isolated heartland to investigate a chilling phenomenon that has haunted a small town for generations. We're going to examine the absolutely terrifying evidence, track the multi-decade timeline, and ultimately, we're going to dissect the legend of the Wisconsin werewolf to find out what is truly lurking in the dark.
It was kneeling. Its elbows were up, and its claws were facing out. I remember the long claws. Now, that right there is the actual documented and completely terrified testimony of Lori Endressy. She was a local bar manager driving home alone at 1:30 in the morning in the crisp fall of 1989. She reported seeing this massive, hulking creature on the gravel shoulder of the road, and it was holding what looked like freshly killed roadkill in its unnatural hands. But here's the really scary part. Unlike a normal deer or a raccoon that just scatters when a massive hunk of screaming metal approaches, this thing didn't run. It just stopped its meal, turned its head, flashed its fangs, and stared her down. Listen, this wasn't just some spooky campfire tale meant to scare children. This was a woman who was genuinely horrified, shaken to her absolute core by an apex predator she saw just outside her windshield.
Section 1. The Wisconsin Werewolf Awakens. Okay, let's really dive into this. Where did this absolute nightmare even begin? Well, let's travel to Elkhorn, Wisconsin. It's charmingly known as the Christmas card town. Elkhorn is this idyllic, quiet rural community, surrounded by rich prairies, expansive dairy farms, and these dense, dark, very isolating cornfields. It is literally the absolute last place you'd ever expect to find a monster. Yet for decades, a 17-mile stretch of thoroughfare known as Bray Road has been the epicenter of something truly bizarre. And what's wild is that the physical descriptions of this creature are incredibly consistent and profoundly disturbing. Witnesses aren't just seeing a large stray dog. No, they describe a bipedal monstrosity standing an imposing 6 to 7 feet tall. It has the thick, muscular build of a human bodybuilder, but it's covered head to toe in shaggy, gray, brown, or silver-tipped fur. It's got a distinctively wolf-like head, pointed ears, and eyes that glow a sickly yellow or orange. And the horror actually goes way beyond just what you can see. Many terrified witnesses report a nauseating, foul stench, smelling exactly like rotting meat, just hanging thick in the air. That's a smell that instantly triggers our deep evolutionary disgust response. And finally, there are the claws. Unusually long, razor-sharp, and dangerously capable of leaving deep gouges in solid steel.
Section 2. Encounters on Bray Road.
To really grasp the gravity of this whole situation, we have to recognize that this isn't just an isolated incident or some one-off summer panic. This is a generational haunting. While the massive explosion of modern sightings happened in the late 80s and early 90s, the lore actually stretches all the way back across the decades to 1936 with a night watchman named Mark Shackleman. Think about that. That means grandfathers were telling their grandchildren about the beast before those children eventually grew up and saw it themselves. Then, after a massive gap in time, we have that terrifying 1989 encounter with Lori Endressy that we just talked about. In 1991, Doris Gibson had a violent, physical run-in on Halloween night. Moving straight into the modern era, a group of nurses in 2004 reported the creature aggressively stepping out of the corn right in front of them. And, incredibly, as recently as 2018, grainy, highly debated photographs from nearby Spring Prairie were still sparking fierce arguments online. The Beast of Bray Road simply refuses to die.
You really have to consider the sheer creep factor of that original 1936 encounter. Mark Shackleman wasn't some easily spooked teenager, right? He was a former heavyweight boxer, a really tough, hardened guy working a lonely job as a night watchman near a local convent. One pitch-black night, he caught a towering, wolf-like figure actively digging at an old Native American burial mound. When he cautiously returned the very next night, the beast was literally waiting for him. It stared right into his soul, and it emitted this low, rumbling, mean, 3-syllable growl that sounded exactly like Gudara. Shackleman also noted its thumbs and little fingers looked unnaturally shriveled and decayed.
This former heavyweight fighter was so completely paralyzed by terror that he stood entirely frozen, desperately praying to God for his life until the creature finally turned and vanished back into the dark woods.
Now fast forward to Halloween night in 1991. The atmosphere is already tense. 18-year-old Doris Gibson is driving her blue Plymouth Sundance through impossibly heavy, blinding fog on Bray Road. Suddenly, her car violently hits something hard. The impact is so severe that her front right tire physically lifts right off the pavement. Terrified and confused, she continues driving for exactly 50 feet into the fog before finally pulling over to inspect the damage. She steps out of her car, peering into the mist, totally expecting to find a wounded deer. Instead, a massive, hairy, muscular figure comes violently sprinting out of the woods, and it is charging straight at her, on two legs. She screams, scrambles frantically back into her car, and slams on the gas. But the beast doesn't stop. It actually leaps directly onto her trunk and only slides off into the darkness because the metal was slick with heavy autumn rain. When she finally made it home to the safety of her garage, she found deep, unmistakable claw marks, carved aggressively right into the back of her car.
Section 3. The journalist's investigation. Stories like Doris Gibson's are exactly the kind of panicked, hushed local whispers that eventually, inevitably, demand public attention. Enter Linda Godfrey. In late 1991, she was a dedicated reporter and cartoonist for a local free paper called the Walworth County Week. It was a dreadfully slow news week, and she honestly just needed a story to fill the pages. She had heard these wild, ridiculous rumors of a local werewolf, and initially thought, it would make a fun, lighthearted, throwaway piece. But as she began sitting down and genuinely interviewing witnesses like Lori Drizzy and Doris Gibson, her strict journalistic skepticism began to waver. These were earnest, completely terrified locals. They had absolutely nothing to gain financially and frankly everything to lose socially by sharing these crazy stories with the press. Yet they fiercely insisted on what they saw. So Godfrey took a massive professional risk and published her article, complete with her own hand-drawn sketch of the creature, right before the new year. And in doing so, she unwittingly unleashed the monster onto the world.
And this brilliantly illustrates the fascinating life cycle of modern folklore. It is such a predictable, powerful engine. Step 1, we have those initial, genuinely unexplained and highly emotional sightings. Step 2, media amplification. The local paper publishes a story, giving the unknown terror a catchy name and a frightening face. Step 3, total community hysteria. Because once the public knows there is a verified Beast of Bray Road out there, the psychological filter completely changes. Suddenly, every random rustle in the midnight cornfield, every strange shadow cast by a parked tractor, and every large stray dog on the loose instantly becomes a confirmed werewolf sighting. The legend creates a feedback loop, feeding entirely on itself until a local oddity blows up into a national sensation.
So, what were these people actually seeing? We have thoroughly explored the campfire tale, and there is no doubt the personal accounts are viscerally terrifying. But as focused learners, we don't just stop at the scare. We need to step completely out of the shadows, turn on the harsh, bright lights of science, and thoroughly dissect the legend to look at the undeniable facts.
Section 4. Dissecting the legend.
Welcome to the analytical portion of our explainer. It's time to boldly strip away the supernatural dread and meticulously examine the biological and psychological realities of Walworth County. Let's compare the mythic traits directly against known local wildlife. Witnesses consistently report a massive, hairy creature walking on two legs. Well, large black bears, which do occasionally wander through this specific region, are very well known to stand up and even confidently walk short distances bipedally just to get a much better view over tall grass or corn. Furthermore, if a black bear is unfortunately suffering from severe mange, which is a devastating parasitic skin disease, it loses almost all of its hair. This exposes grayish, wrinkled, sick-looking skin, and it makes its elongated canine snout and large ears highly visible. The horrifying, pathetic sight of a hairless, diseased bear standing up on its hind legs in the pale moonlight looks astonishingly like a Hollywood werewolf. Add to this the established presence of large feral dogs, aggressive coyotes, or even rogue timber wolves, and you have a very robust, very real biological basis for these terrifying sightings.
But biology is really only half the equation, right? We absolutely have to factor in human psychology. Just imagine yourself driving down a pitch-black, deeply foggy rural road. Your adrenaline is naturally elevated. Your headlights suddenly catch a distorted, shadowy shape. This instantly triggers pareidolia. Pareidolia is our brain's deeply ingrained primal instinct to desperately find familiar patterns, like human faces or standing bodies, in random chaotic visual data. Think about waking up in the middle of the night and seeing a bulky winter coat hanging on your bedroom door. For a split second, your brain screams that it's a home intruder, right? Now multiply that exact panic by 100 on a dark, lonely highway. An optical illusion caused by headlights hitting an oddly shaped tree stump or a fleeing sickly deer can instantly be transformed by a frightened, exhausted mind into a bloodthirsty monster. And once Linda Godfrey's articles sparked mass hysteria, the overwhelming power of suggestion meant people were driving down Bray Road actively expecting and maybe even secretly hoping to see a werewolf.
Section 5. Hoaxes and hallucinations.
However, biology and psychological misidentification still don't fully explain the violent claw marks left on cars, or a creature actively pressing its terrifying face against a windshield. To understand those truly aggressive encounters, we need to examine the most fascinating and perhaps most deeply cynical academic theory behind the beast. This brings us to a brilliant sociological concept called ostensive action. In folklore studies, ostensive action is the fascinating process of everyday people literally acting out a local legend in real life. You see, once the myth of the Beast of Bray Road was firmly established in the local consciousness, it provided a ready-made script, and some people decided it would be hilarious, or maybe highly useful, to actually put on a mask and play the part of the monster.
And the sources provide a truly stunning, almost comical piece of evidence for this. One dedicated investigator documented a very specific secondhand confession that was actually overheard from a man at a local wedding reception. The man blatantly admitted that his father was directly involved in creating the Bray Road sightings. Why? Well, because his father owned a farm directly on Bray Road, was absolutely sick and tired of hormonal teenagers using his private rural property as a late-night lover's lane, and decided to just go out and buy a cheap gorilla costume. He would put on this massive, hairy suit, sneak through the cornfields, and aggressively terrorize the parked cars, banging on the windows to chase the teenagers away. I mean, it is absurd, it is hilarious, but it is also a perfect logical explanation for a massive bipedal creature attacking cars in the dark.
You also have to think deeply about the cultural timeline here. The late 1980s and early 1990s were the absolute golden age of practical effects werewolf cinema. We are talking about massive, terrifying blockbuster hits like The Howling, An American Werewolf in London, and Stephen King's Silver Bullet. Is it really so hard to believe that local teenage pranksters or disgruntled dairy farmers in gorilla suits took direct, gleeful inspiration from Hollywood? Banging aggressively on the metallic roof of a car, stepping out of the dense fog on two legs, pressing a scary rubber mask against a rain-slicked window? These are classic, recognizable cinematic tropes. Through deliberate, planned copycat pranks and ostensive action, human beings essentially brought the Wisconsin werewolf to life themselves.
Section 6. Why the myth endures.
So if we can so thoroughly explain away this terrifying monster with mangy bears, tricks of the light, and grumpy local farmers in gorilla suits, why do we still care? Why does the Beast of Bray Road remain one of the most famous, heavily researched cryptids in all of America? Well, when we map the frightening legend directly to the grounded reality, the big picture becomes beautifully clear. The towering bipedal monster is almost certainly a sick bear with mange. The demonic glowing yellow eyes are simply tapetum lucidum, which is the completely natural, biological reflective layer found in animal eyes bouncing the high beams of a car right back at the driver. And the hyper-aggressive car attacks? Almost certainly ostensive hoaxes and teenage pranks. But here is the absolute catch, the one thing we must remember. Whether the visual stimulus was a diseased animal, an optical illusion in the fog, or a local guy in a cheap rubber mask, the sheer, unadulterated fear those witnesses felt in that exact moment was 100% real. Their blood ran cold, their adrenaline spiked dangerously high, they fled for their absolute lives. Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought to process. The Beast of Bray Road, as a literal, supernatural, shape-shifting entity, almost certainly does not exist. But the powerful legend of the beast serves a profound, deeply human purpose. It magically transforms a boring, empty, otherwise totally forgettable stretch of Midwestern highway into a place of primal mystery, unpredictability, and danger. It serves as a stark reminder that even in our modern, scientifically illuminated and hyper-connected world, we still harbor an ancient, evolutionary fear of the dark woods. The beast might just be a myth crafted by shadows and stories, but what does our deep, enduring need to invent these terrible monsters actually say about us? When we stare into the dark, what shadows are we really trying to run from? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating legend with me today. Keep asking questions, keep looking for the truth behind the fear, and I will see you in the next explainer.